your seminary training pretty much provided you with the tools that you need to be a preacher. Now, what I was surprised at in coming here is to find that you were not so much a preacher, you certainly were that, but you were not aimed at that so much as you were aiming at being a teacher and a guide. You wanted us, you told us, I want you to think and understand what you're doing, and you come to your own decisions. Do not come to me as an oracle. What do I do now? You do this. This ability that you to stand back and to avoid the trap that so many clergy get into of acting as a broker between God and the people. You've managed to avoid that. And that essentially transformed you in such a way that it's awesome to me. How on earth were you able to make that transformation from being a person who tells people what to do to one who leads them rather than tells them?
Desperation.
And when will you publish it?
Desperation, really. It's sort of a flip remark, but not really. In some ways, I used to get up and preach a written sermon every week. I know for people who don't know me, that seems really strange, but I had it all written out, and I would prepare it. I would prepare it all week. It took a long time to do it. It takes a long time to even prepare what I do now. I know that people think I just stand up there and talk, but that's not true. I have to read and know, because there are people who want to know things, who would say, well, what does it say in Greek?
Very true.
Yeah. So, you just can't get up there and pretend like you know what you're doing. You have to know what you're doing. And Irene and Joanne, Corinne, I think they're the only people, other than people who've heard me preach at funerals, who've ever heard me preach on a Sunday. Yeah, but I mean, that's here right now. I don't think, Judy, you've never heard me. You heard me at Ken's funeral, but that's the first time you'd ever heard me. Judy came up to me after Ken's funeral and said, wow, I didn't even know you could do that. That was really good. And I don't do it. I don't do it often, but it came out of the fact that it seemed silly for me when 4 or 5 people were in the church. There were 2 people in the church. I'd get up there in the pulpit. Grace would be sitting in the back pew. Irene would be sitting in the first or second pew, and Joanne, after a while, we began to sit next to Irene. But that was it in church, with a few other scattering people, Corinne and some other people, Nina. So there are 4 or 5 people, and all of a sudden you pretend like there's a whole crowd, and you get up there in the pulpit and you say, and now let me say. I mean, the first week that I did that in my former parish, I had been at St. John's in Gideon Square, which was my first parish, and that's a cavernous place. It seats like 1,000, 1,200 people. And I came to my next parish, St. Andrew's in Hartsdale, which is small. It's almost as small as this. The first week after I preached, the lady came up to me and said, Father Hesse, that was very nice. Next week, do you think we can turn down the microphone? Well, we didn't have a microphone. I was used to preaching so loud. And the same thing when I came here, it just seemed ridiculous to me. It's actually, I had to laugh at myself. It seemed pretentious. And then one night, I was really sick, and I just couldn't finish my sermon, and I didn't write one. So I decided, I remembered something that someone had said to me, a woman named Dorothy, not my mother, and not you, but another person, and she said to me, Rusty, we really don't care what you're saying, but we care that you love us. And so just make sure that whatever you do, let the people know before they leave that whatever you have to say, that somehow they get the idea that you cared enough to love them. And so it was that point, that's what gave me the courage to stand up there and just talk. And once I did that, word got around, and I think that has been greatly responsible for why people come to church, because they like the idea that they can talk back and that there is a discussion going on. There are some people who tell me that one of the reasons they come in late is because they only come for the sermon. they couldn't care about the rest of it. I said, well, that's really great. No, I'm serious. That's what I'm saying. You know, I'm being honest with you. So make sure. And when we talked about cutting back certain things, we had these discussions about if we should. Can we cut back? We want to only have 3 hymns, 3 verses in a hymn, and we cut out the creed. We have shorter time, but don't touch the sermon. Gotta have time. But if you could just sort of wrap it up a little quicker, not 45 minutes, but maybe 25, that would be good. And if you could include the following, I mean, they had all sermons. But no, I think that the sermons I think that is one of the keys to what we do here that's different about who we are. And that I've learned a lot. I learn what people like, what they expect, what they think. And sometimes I come home from church and I say to Anthony, oh, I have so much teaching to do. And so I think I am probably a better teacher than anything that I do, which is one of the reasons that I'm teaching now for them, and I enjoy it. And there's some great models. You know, when you have people here in the parish who taught for a long time, like Irene and other people, like Nina and Corinne and other people who've taught, then you really you say, okay, well, this makes sense, and that's why I still do it. I think teaching is a good way of preaching. It's not always, and not many people can do it. The question is, can this be replicated other places? So I've preached in England a couple times. I remember my first preaching at the parish there, I was preaching, and so I started walking up and down and trying to get people involved. And in England, there's not a lot of people attending churches anymore. And so I started going, no one was answering. I said, oh, come on. And I would follow on this person, and they said, oh. So could you speak up? So finally one lady in the back said, excuse me, Pastor, we don't do that here. Do what? You never talk back to the priest. I said, well, I'm a visiting priest, now is your opportunity. Have a field day. And so we got into it. We found that they had to have permission. People have to have permission to talk, but once they do, I think it is replicable. But when I suggested it, I can tell you that I'm the only priest in the whole diocese of Sisco. And once I suggested it to my colleagues, they just think that I've lost my mind totally, really. In fact, when I told them that I thought it was interesting to hear what people had to say and we needed to preach about those things, they said, oh, no. We have to tell people what to believe. That's very important, you know, otherwise the church will fall apart. So.
Yeah, that's the brokerage that I do not like in much of the clergy.